Okay, so we're going to get started in a few minutes. We just want to give everyone a couple extra minutes to get here because people just started rolling in. So just bear with us. You will have time at the end to visit all the tables, so don't worry about that, but we'll get started here in a few. Okay, we just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you, families and students, for coming and joining us. I know it's cold and it's late, but we really appreciate having you here. This is a great opportunity to hear from universities and hear about admissions, applying for college, and hopefully you can take what you've learned back to some of your friends so they know too. And we'd also like to thank our representatives from the universities that have joined us today. We'll do a short introduction later. First, we're going to watch this slide presentation that's just going to go over some of the key things that you need to know when applying to college and university, and then we'll hear from our representatives. Devin, you can push play.
We encourage all students to explore the resources available, whether you're just beginning to consider college or well on your way into the planning process. These tools will guide you and support informed decisions about your future. Finding the best fit. When choosing a college, it's essential to look beyond prestige or following friends. The popular choice isn't always the right choice. Instead, consider factors that shape the best fit for you. Location, available majors, social activities, academic requirements, financial commitments, and university outcomes like job placement. Choose a college that offers programs aligned with your career goals, setting you up for future success. Choosing where to go to college is just as important as deciding to go. Research each college thoroughly by exploring their website, using online college search tools, and considering personal or virtual tours. Pay close attention to admission requirements, ACT and SAT preferences, and factors such as size, location, cost, program quality, and faculty. Size of institution. Most universities are broken up into 4 sizes. Small university, under 3,000 students, characterized by small class size, more personalized attention from professors, and close-knit community. Medium-sized university, 3,000 to 10,000 students, characterized by balanced resources and community size, wide range of majors, and moderate class size. Large university, 10,000 to 20,000 students, characterized by more facilities and resources, a broad range of programs, larger classes, but still options for personal attention. We're in a very large university, 20,000 plus students, typically characterized as a flagship school or a large research institution, extensive resources, diverse social and economic opportunities, and large classes. Location. Do you want to attend school in a large city or town, in the suburbs or rural area? Do you want to stay in Michigan or go to a school out of state? When considering location, think of proximity to home, the difference in cost between in-state and out-of-state tuition, networking, and job opportunities connected with the university of your choice. Cost. Cost is a crucial factor when deciding where to attend college. Be sure to compare and contrast colleges based on annual tuition, available merit scholarships awarded for GPA, test scores, and other achievements, and overall financial aid packages. Evaluating these factors will help you make a choice that's both affordable and aligned with your academic goals. On the CHS counseling website, we keep a list of scholarship opportunities for students to explore. Program quality. Consider the quality of your program. Is the program you are applying to accredited by the relevant professional organizations? Does your school of choice have a good reputation within the field you wish to study? Consider the institution's resources such as labs, research facilities, access to technology, and what they offer that will enrich your learning experience. Look at career outcomes for graduates, including job placement rates, internship and mentorship opportunities. Public or private? Public colleges are typically larger, funded by governments, and offer a wide range of programs with lower tuition for in-state students, though out-of-state costs can be higher. Private colleges, usually smaller and funded through tuition and donations, tend to have higher tuition across the board, but often provide significant financial aid and more personalized learning experiences. While searching for colleges, consider application deadlines, student activities including sports, clubs, student organizations, and housing options. Application deadlines. Early decision. Applicants typically receive an admissions decision earlier than other applications. Find an application option where a student commits to attending the college if accepted. Early action is non-binding, allowing students to apply and receive a decision early without committing to attend. Students have more time to compare financial aid offers and make their final decision. And regular decision. Non-binding application option with standard deadline, typically in January. Decisions are usually released in the spring, allowing students time to review all offers before deciding. Housing and residency options. Students have various options, with some universities requiring freshmen to live on campus in dorms, while others allow off-campus living, whether at home with roommates or independently. Dorms and student apartments come in various layouts, so be sure to explore the university's website, attend representative visits, or tour campuses to learn more about housing options. Important factors of college applications. When reviewing applications, college reps look for students with strong grades and challenging courses, and seek insight into your character through extracurricular involvement. Use the application essay to showcase a well-rounded picture of who you are. While many colleges are test optional, some still consider ACT, SAT scores for merit-based scholarships or admission to honors colleges. It's crucial to research each college's specific requirements before applying. Did you know? It is suggested that you apply to one REACH school. Your GPA and test scores fall below the 20th percentile for admitted students, meaning it's less likely but still a possible option. One match school. Your GPA and test scores fall within the 25th to 75th percentile range of admitted students, making it a good fit academically. And one safety school. Your GPA and test scores are about the 75th percentile, so you have a strong chance of admission. On College Board's Big Future website, you can enter your GPA or test scores to see which schools fall into these categories for you. This slide shows all tasks involved when applying for college from beginning to end. Note that most of the deadlines are in September of senior year. CHS counselors meet with 11th grade students in May to encourage working on some of these items this summer prior to senior year. Even after all the research, planning, and acceptance, it's important to remember that colleges can revoke your acceptance or scholarship offers if your grades, course rigor, or extracurricular activities decline during senior year. Senior year is a crucial time to finish strong, so stay focused and continue putting in all the effort to maintain your achievements until the very end. And now it's time for the sorting game.
All right, so I have students in the audience that I asked to play a game with me. If you'll come up on stage for me right now. And I'm gonna have you guys line up in GPA order up front here. So highest GPA is gonna be over here and lowest GPA on this end. All right, so my 4.1, you're probably gonna be the highest one, so you're gonna be over here. Yep. And then line up in order, kind of figure out where you need to go. Okay, so if you'll hold up your GPAs for everybody to see, and then so you can see the back of your GPA cards. So we're gonna play an admissions game to kind of show you that GPA is not the only thing that's considered in the admissions process. So just kind of notice as I read things off, what they're considering when they're looking at your students as a whole. So, if you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program, move up 2 spaces, so towards me. Very good. All right, if you clearly stated that this college is your first choice by making an early decision application and commitment, move up 2 spaces. All right, if you are a varsity athlete and an all region in that sport, move up 1 space. If you have participated in a significant community service project, move up one space. If you are a legacy at the college to which you are applying, move up 2 spaces. If, when you typed your college essay, you forgot to change the name of the college to which you are applying, move down 3 spaces. If you will be the first one in your family to attend college, move up 1 space. If you choose psychology as your intended major, move down 1 space. If you decided to protect your GPA by not taking AP classes offered at your school, move down 1 space. If you have participated in no school-related activities, move down 2 spaces. If you do not know your teachers well enough to feel comfortable asking for a recommendation, move down 1 space. If you are an Eagle Scout, move up 2 spaces. If you attended an enriching summer program between your junior and senior year, move up 1 space. If you plagiarized your college admission essay and got caught, sit down, you are out of the competition entirely. If you got a D in an academic course at the end of your junior year, move down 1 space. If you wrote a letter to the college admissions officer explaining the extenuating circumstances surrounding a grade of D, move up 1 space. Almost there. If you did not write the optional essay for your college application, move down 2 spaces. If you choose as the topic of your college essay, sports as a metaphor for life, move down 1 space. And then if your last name is Winfrey and the name on the college library is Winfrey and it's not a coincidence, move all the way to the front of the line and stay there. Okay, so now take a look at your GPAs. Are they in order? No, not even close. They look at you guys as a whole. They take all those things into consideration. So now we've got the 2.8 at the top of considerations, and then the 4.0, then 4.1, and so on. So they take a look at the students as a whole, and you'll find that out tonight as we ask questions when our reps come up. So, all right, can we have a round of applause for my volunteers? And I have a gift for you.
Keep these.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for doing it. There you go. Thank you.
Are we missing one?
Nope, I found it on the thing.
And there you go. Thank you.
And here's your
that's your
gift. So all our students who played our game tonight got a $5 gift card to our school store. So thank you for playing our game tonight. All right.
Okay, now we're going to call up our esteemed representatives to have a seat on the stage, so feel free to come on up. Devin, you can keep going with that slideshow. I think it might have to be a click-through. I don't think I timed it. Thank you, sir. A round of applause for our student workers tonight, guys. They're doing amazing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So we can go to the next slide. This is just some information for families and students. In the last presentation, we talk about what's available on the counseling website. Feel free to scan that QR code to get to our website, or if you need any other information, if you're unfamiliar with it, it is on the Clarkston High School. There's a tab for counseling, but we do have a lot of good information on there when it comes time for the college application, including for seniors. We keep a running list of scholarships that are open. Next slide. So we had some changes to our esteemed panel today, so I'm going to go through. Some of them are up there, some of them aren't. So if we could have the lights on stage. So for our first, we have Courtney Howard from Oakland University. Thank you for being here. There we go. Hi, guys. And then Kelly, how do you say your last name? Okay, we have Kelly Thalman from Oakland Community College filling in for us tonight. And Pam Fator, I might butcher these, I apologize, coming from Lawrence Tech. And Keegan Carrasco, who's joining us from U of M. Very excited that he was able to make it tonight. Danae Frost from Hope. And Zachary Cox-Mandingo from Michigan State University. So we have some prepared questions, and we'll have time for a general Q&A, some audience questions, but you will also have time afterwards to visit reps at their tables. But we're going to go ahead and get the ball rolling. Panelists, you're welcome to add anything you feel is important or that you want to add that might be specific to your school. So our first question is for the whole panel. Could you share any trends you are noticing in admissions?
Start. So again, my name is Courtney with Oakland University. I'm just going to get us started. But as far as some trends that we're noticing in undergraduate admissions, one of the questions that we'll actually talk about today, a little bit being those test scores, so like ACT and SAT scores. So a big trend we're noticing is that a lot of institutions are moving to more of a test optional policy when it comes to submitting SAT or ACT scores. So when you're in your junior year and you're taking those exams, of course we're going to recommend that you prepare, you do your best, because even though they might not be used for admission, they can be at a school like Oakland. We use those for scholarships. So if you do really well in the ACT or SAT, that can help you receive a higher merit scholarship at the institution. So even though you're going to see that some schools are moving to more of a test optional policy, we still are going to recommend that you're putting your best foot forward, using those study guides. If you have any ACT or SAT prep courses, taking part in those, because doing really well on those exams can still help you, even if it's getting you some more money at the institution.
So as far as our community college world, we're noticing that the students that are coming to join us at community college are more heavily skilled trades focused. There's a lot of money from the state right now being invested in skilled trades, and we're seeing a huge influx of that right now.
Hi, Pam from Lawrence Tech. Oh, I wish I could give you all a scholarship for coming tonight, so thanks for coming. I think the trend we're seeing is students are really, really knowledgeable. They do a lot of work on the websites. They're looking at colleges. We provide so much information to you through our websites, through our bots that we use that you can ask questions to. So they come to us very informed, and I think that's really great. So take that time to use the technology to research the universities.
So at the University of Michigan, one of the biggest trends we're seeing is more applications. Last year we received about 98,000 applications from across the world, not just from the state of Michigan. In the overall pool, though, over half of our students in the incoming class will come from the state of Michigan. So what I don't want you to think is that we're not admitting students from down the road anymore. We still are. We still want you at the University of Michigan. We're still trying to provide that service to you. So look at the numbers and everything, but don't feel like you don't have a shot is the big message I want to give to you.
And then at Hope, being a private institution, we certainly would say there's been a significant increase in the stress around the cost of college. Obviously, college has always been expensive, and that's always been a big factor for students. But the narrative, especially around student loan debt, taking out those loans, what that conversation looks like, especially at a private college, oftentimes being one of, if not the most expensive school on students' radar, is helping families kind of navigate FAFSA, scholarships, and all of that process.
At Michigan State in admissions the last year, I feel like one trend that I've really started to pick up on is students maybe starting to assume reasons of why they should maybe wait to apply or apply later than maybe we recommend that they should. For example, we have a November 1 early action deadline, but sometimes students might say, oh, I think I'm going to get better grades in my fall semester, or maybe I'm going to have a better SAT score later on in the year, something like that. And they'll use those reasons to hold on until they actually submit their application, so they can submit it with those details. But we always recommend to students, if you're applying, try to meet those deadlines, and if we need anything extra from you, we will ask for it before we do anything else with your application, okay? So if you're being told those deadlines, try to keep to them the best that you can.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, this one is for Pam from Lawrence Tech. What is the difference between a technical university and a traditional university?
Thank you. Thanks. So what's the difference between a technical university compared to a traditional university? So first of all, there's one more college that I want you guys to think about, and you had mentioned it, the technical skilled colleges. So those aren't the same. So a technical college where you want to learn a skill, a plumber, electrician, maybe you want to do something special like that, a cosmetologist. Those are technical schools. So you're going to probably go for a much shorter period of time, usually maybe 2 years, 1 to 2 years. Oftentimes it's paid for, so that's really great. But a technological school is very different. So what I want to explain to you, so Lawrence Technological University, there's MIT, there's RIT, there's a lot of Michigan Tech up in the UP, a lot of technological skills. And why we are different is we do focus a lot on technology. We're very, very focused on getting kids exposed to their major right away. That's one of the biggest things. And you're not going to have as many general studies typically. You're not going to have liberal art type majors either. So you're going to have like engineering, or you're going to have maybe a business degree, an architecture degree, much more focused, and you get into that major a lot quicker. So at Lawrence Tech, we say that we're immersed in technology. That's what we're all about. It doesn't matter what field you're in, but you're going to get exposed to your major right away. In public schools, or maybe traditional colleges, there's a little bit more range of opportunities. You may have a political science degree that a technological school wouldn't have. So I hope I answered the question. That's kind of the difference between a technological school and a traditional school.
This next question is for MSU. Some students worry that their freshman and sophomore grades might prevent them from getting into their top choice university. Is this a valid concern, and what would you recommend?
Yeah, this can change, case by case basis. It's always going to depend on how you're doing in each individual class, the level of the classes that you're taking, if you're taking any AP, honors, that sort of thing. But the thing I always encourage to students is we don't just look at your overall grades, but we also look at your grade trend. Usually I'm going to look a little bit closer at how you're doing in your more recent grades than how you did back in 9th grade. I am going to look at all of it, but we do want to see, at the very least, a consistent or a positive trend. So vice versa, if you did great in 9th and 10th, I usually tell students the worst year to have an off year is in 11th grade, because that's the most recent thing that we're going to have seen from you, right? The last thing, though, is I always tell students, if you're in this middle space where you're not really super confident about your application, we can always ask the student for more grades. It's called being withheld for like mid-year grades. I always tell students, if you feel you're in that space, give us something to withhold you for. And what I mean by that is give yourself a strong schedule in your senior year. That's, a lot of core classes. MSU in particular, we recommend that students take at least 3 core classes in your senior year. That's math, science, English, social studies, foreign language, classes like that, right? And so if you're taking a lot of those classes in your senior year, that shows that you're serious about, this college admissions process, and it can really help move the needle if, with the 3 years that we have at that point in your application, if you're not really too sure what to do about it with your application, if you have a good senior schedule, then we know we can hold on to it, see how you do then. But if you don't really have that many core classes, if you're just taking English and really nothing else, then there's not going to be really a whole lot for us to look at if we do hold on to your application. So just make sure you stay the course, keep trying, and know that we're really looking for a positive grade trend, and keep doing that going into your senior year as well.
Great, thank you. All right, the next one is for Courtney from OU. You kind of touched on this a little bit earlier already, but what role do standardized tests play in applications, and does it matter if students take the ACT or SAT, and will schools stay test optional?
Yeah, so again, just kind of preferencing this does vary school by school. But at Oakland, for instance, we are test optional, and we have been test optional really since the pandemic. I think a lot of institutions, that's really when that kicked off. But there are some schools that you might be looking into that do require those scores for admission. So really just paying attention to what schools that you are interested in and what they're looking for. If it matters, ACT versus SAT, at Oakland University, it does not. I know when I was in high school, the ACT was the exam that we, or the standardized test that we took. I know now juniors are taking the SAT, but we do have students who might take the SAT their junior year, and then in their senior year, they might complete the ACT and see if they do any better on that standardized test. They are similar, but they do look a little bit different. So some students perform better on one standardized test over the other, but there isn't a requirement, doesn't matter which exam you submitted to Oakland, just using us as an example, and then that trend, just personally, I'm looking at Oakland University, we are trending to stay test optional, but again, that is just our institution. I would definitely do the research for the schools that you are interested in, and what they are, heading towards. And then again, the importance of it, I would say, is that financial piece. So at OU, we don't look at your scores for admission. So if, let's say you submit it and that is a lower score, that will not negatively impact your admission to the university. But if you did really well, that can help you just receiving a higher scholarship at the university. So just really doing the research for the schools you're interested in, seeing what they're looking for, and then submitting those scores accordingly.
Can I add to that? Other thing. Something else to mention on that same testing score, at some colleges too, we, at Lawrence Tech, we use those test scores to determine if you have to take placement tests. So that's, I don't know if other schools do that, but if you have a strong English score, then we may waive you from an English placement test. So it's really good to research the college, like you had said. Really find out what is the benefit of sending them in or not sending them in.
Can I add to that?
Oakland Community College is test optional. We have rolling admissions, so everybody gets in. But if you did, like you mentioned, if you do want to use your scores for placement, we have that as an option, as well as for our math placement. If you can submit a high school transcript with a 3.0 or higher, that waives your math placement.
Okay, this next question is for Hope. What impact does course selection have on my GPA? For example, IB, AP, dual enrollment, or standard college preparatory courses?
Yeah, so I think the admissions game did a really nice job of exhibiting that the GPA certainly is a significant piece of admissions, but certainly not the only piece. At Hope, we always encourage students to take the most academically rigorous course load. You feel comfortable and confident that certainly, yes, take challenging classes. I, for example, was horrible at math. I had no business being an AP Stats, but at the time it just felt like if I wasn't taking every class as an AP, that would limit my opportunities for different institutions. And so, again, admissions obviously can have a lot of different stressors, but truly at every institution, no matter the size, we look at every single applicant as itself. And so we do recognize that, again, for some students, taking an academically rigorous course load is a full IB diploma or like a lot of dual enrollment or AP classes. And for some students, it might just be making sure that they're taking 3 or 4 core classes their senior year. Certainly, we would not want to see things like 4 gym classes senior year. That is not considered academically challenging, obviously. And so, again, you know yourself as a student and as a parent, so having those types of conversations when you're registering for classes, we want there to be some degree of challenge. It's not a concern at the end of the day if you got a B in an AP class, because that does show you're willing to be challenged in that coursework and are excited to learn at a little bit of a different pace. But again, you know yourself and you know what that GPA potentially could look like when you're taking those classes, and even talking with your teachers and your guidance counselors here can be a really helpful resource to get a better sense of like, okay, at what degree does it make sense for this to be a challenging class? Or where can I make sure that I can balance my course load with extracurriculars and those types of things as well?
Okay, all right, back to Courtney. Back to you. All right, some students feel pressured to volunteer for their resumes, but struggle to balance school, a part-time job, and extracurriculars. How important is a student's resume in the admissions process?
Yeah, so I think the game that you guys played was a great example of this. At Oakland, we have a holistic admissions process. So while GPA is important and we are taking that into consideration, we also want to see what students are doing outside of the classroom. So whether that's leadership opportunities, or you have a part-time job, you're captain of your soccer team, or whatever that might be. We do want to see what students are involved in outside of the classroom. But I think what's really important is focusing on quality over quantity. So you want to make sure that that is a manageable load, not overloading yourself just to add things to the resume, but that they are meaningful. You're taking part in volunteer opportunities if that's important to you, or leadership if that's important to you, so that it's meaningful opportunities to add to your resume, but diversifying those as well and making sure that you are balancing, because your GPA is still important. So you want to make sure you're not overloaded and not able to study for your exams and keep up in your classes. So really focusing on the quality versus the quantity of what you're involved in.
Okay, this next question is for OCC. What are the benefits of attending community college for students uncertain about college plans or affordability?
So there's quite a few benefits to attending a college like OCC for students that are unsure or concerned about affordability. The biggest one being right now is they can attend OCC for free with the community college guarantee. So that's a huge benefit to attending community college, as well as we have small class sizes. So we cap our classes at 30 students. Your average is going to be 22 students. So it's going to be very similar to high school. So if you're unsure of that college experience, if you're unsure of what you're looking for, about what you want to do with your major, having those smaller class sizes and getting that one-on-one communication with your professor makes it a lot easier, as well as the transferability. You can start with us, do the majority of your credits with us, and then take those credits over to an LTU or a Oakland University or a Michigan State, and you're doing those credits with us for free in a more comfortable, smaller space before you have the larger experience.
Okay, all right. This next one's for the entire panel, so anyone can chime in on this one, or everybody. Okay, can you discuss the process of transferring from a community college to a four-year university and how families can manage the rising costs of college? So what's that process like? Because now that community college is free and does help with that cost, but how do students and families manage that transfer?
I can start with that, I guess. So I obviously can only speak for Oakland Community College, but before you can even register for your incoming classes, one of the first things that you need to do is meet with one of our OCC counselors. And in that process, if you know that transferability and transferring is your high goal, your end mark at OCC, you're going to tell them that I want to start here, I want to take all the free classes I can and maximize that with as many credits that I can transfer over to Oakland University as possible for free here at OCC. So your OCC counselor will make sure that the classes you're taking are transferable. They'll make sure that the school that you have chosen will accept those credits using something called the MTA, which is the Michigan Transfer Agreement. So if you're unfamiliar with that, that means that any public universities in Michigan will accept this credits that you are bringing over from community college through that Michigan Transfer Agreement.
I'm just going to add to that. So Oakland University, we are one of the top transfer destinations in Michigan. So we see over 2,000 transfer students each year. We do get a lot of students from OCC, with us just being neighbors. But something that I really like that we do with our transfer process, we have a transfer equivalency tool on our website, but we also have transfer guides. So if we're talking to students, maybe you're in your senior year and ahead of time, I want to start at OCC, but my end goal is to get to Oakland University. We can provide you with a list of classes that you can take at OCC that might be outside of the MTA. So maybe you want to start classes towards your major. Maybe you're a chemistry major. You want to do your gen eds, but you also want to sprinkle in some of your major classes. We have a list of guides. So you're not, wondering, are the classes I'm taking going to transfer? We want to make sure that you're not wasting your time and your money. And so we want to make sure that if you take any of these classes, you get a C- or higher, it will transfer to Oakland University. Our registrar teams, we also do unofficial credit evaluations. When we work with students that would like to see this a lot, so maybe they're like a year out from transferring, they're like, I want to see, how my credits transfer to Oakland and how much time I would have left to get my degree. With one of our admissions reps, we can provide students with an evaluation. You send us your transcript, we send you back an evaluation showing you how that transfers for your major, what you have left, and a percentage of how long you'll have.
Can I add something? I promise I'll be quick. Courtney was mentioning that, I just wanted to mention that I started at OCC when I was a student, and I transferred 80 credits from OCC to Oakland University. And before I did that, though, I was in touch with an advisor in my program at Oakland University. And she was, okay, this is good, this looks good, you're right on track. So that's another really important point, is not only having a really good communication with your OCC counselor or your community college counselor, but the university's counselor or advisor that you also would like to end up attending. And then I also wanted to mention, I lost my train of thought though, that 40% of American first-time college students are in a community college right now with plans to transfer. So the majority right now, or a close to majority, are starting in community college and then finishing their degree in a university.
Thank you. Okay, I have a couple things to add to that. I deal with a lot of students that transfer to Lawrence Tech from OCC, from Macomb, and I do think it is so, so critical that you don't say to yourself, I'm going to OCC and stop there. Don't stop there. Figure out what is going to be your next step, and just as you said, contact a admissions counselor at that college where you're going to be next, because they will help you sort through the abundance of classes that are being offered to you. It's really critical to do that, and then you're sure that every class you're taking is going to be accepted into the electrical engineering program or the architecture program or whatever you're planning to study. And then the other thing I want you to take a really good look at is freshman scholarships. When you come from high school into a college, your freshman scholarships are always going to be the highest scholarships you are going to receive. So you really do have to weigh that. If you decide to start at OCC and then come to Lawrence Tech, our transfer scholarships are great, but they're based on your GPA and the number of transfer credits we're going to accept. So it's a whole different thing. So you really have to be very careful to say, what am I really going to lose or what am I going to gain by starting at a community college? You're not going to always get that freshman scholarship that you thought you were going to get when you applied at first. Okay, so make sure you understand the whole picture. I hope that's not confusing things, but think about the whole picture.
Yeah, so I want to echo a lot of the things that people are saying, especially about transferring from a community college to a larger university. We do have our own team of transfer admission counselors who are reading those applications. It's not quite as extensive as the one for first-year admissions, so we're not making you write as many essays and things like that. So be aware of that. There is that process. We do bring in plenty of students, especially from community colleges in the state of Michigan. We do make that a priority. I do want to mention for affordability too, for all of the universities and colleges you're looking at, go to the net price calculator, search up UMich net price calculator, and put in some information about finances and see what that might look like for you. We did just expand the Go Blue guarantee to include anybody whose family income and assets are less than $125,000 apiece. So that is expanding for the people, juniors in the room. That's going up for you, so you would have no tuition if your family income and assets are below that number. So something to be aware of. We are trying to make it as affordable as possible for in-state students at the University of Michigan.
The only thing I'll add that is a helpful resource is a website also called Transferology that can do some of the legwork for you, that you can indicate where you might be taking some of these dual enrollment or community college classes, add different institutions right in that website, and you can see then where those classes would transfer at different universities. So it could also just be a helpful starting point there.
There's been a lot of really great information, so I'll only add two things. I'll echo one point and add one more. The echoing is just that, again, it's really, really important to make sure you're doing some research into the particular program that you would maybe want to transfer into, because there is, a difference, right, of having 60 credits that are transferable and having 60 credits that are transferable directly, towards the specific program that you may want to do. Because at different institutions, at MSU in particular, some programs might be a little bit more transfer friendly than others. The example I always hold up as an unfriendly program that we have for transferring is our interior design program. They really don't want students to do more than a semester or two somewhere else before they come to MSU. So it's good to know those kinds of things ahead of time before you go to actually transfer into those programs, so you're not wasting time or money doing those classes elsewhere, right? The last thing I'll add is who is considered a transfer student. That might sound really, really simple, but I see a lot of students get mixed up on this. So, if you're taking dual enrollment classes, for example, while you're in high school, sometimes students might think that they're a transfer student when they go to start their college applications. You're actually not considered a transfer student, at least for MSU, but I think this is the way it works across the board. You're not considered a transfer student until you graduate from high school, then take classes at an institution, and then go to transfer to the institution after that. Okay, so if you're taking dual enrollment classes all through high school and then you want to apply to Michigan State University, you're going to complete the first year student application rather than the transfer application.
One quick thing to add is that doesn't mean you can't transfer those credits typically. You can bring those credits to most universities and colleges. Look up the transfer equivalency guides again to figure out you took this dual enrollment class, what can you get credit for?
Thanks, everyone. So this next question is for Lawrence Tech. Can you explain how the support provided in college differs from what is received in high school under a 504 plan or an IEP?
I guess I need a microphone. Okay. So I did have a chance to talk with our Student Success or Disability Services office today just briefly, and he said if you could just make sure you tell everybody, just because you have a 504 or an IEP at high school, that doesn't mean that's all you need to submit to a university, and it transfers over. A lot of people feel like all those 504s and IEPs are automatically accepted by the colleges, and that is not true. Every college has different offerings for any kind of services. If you need more time on a test, if you need some tools because you have eye problems, if you need transportation from one class to another, there's all kinds of services that we offer. So you just need to go to the website, look at the information at the college you want to go to, and understand what the requirements really are. And what we're finding is most schools just want to hear exactly what's happening. You know, they may want a copy of your 504, or they may not want a copy of your 504. So it totally depends. So once you're accepted, I would take that next step and contact those offices and find out what kind of service is my son or daughter going to get at this university. It's pretty extensive. Typically will happen, though, it's you as a student's responsibility to ask for those services. They're not going to say, okay, we have a test tomorrow and you 3 people get to have an untimed test. You have to be the aggressor and go to your professor, explain to what is going on, and then they will provide you with the resources based on the fact that you're registered through the offices. So it's really, I mean, colleges are all going to offer services, but the level of service is going to be dependent on the university. Anyone else want to add to that?
Okay, great. We're down to our last 2 questions, and then you guys get to ask questions. So, Zach, this one's yours. If applications indicate that letters of recommendation are optional and a student only sends what is required, does it negatively impact their chance for acceptance?
In the case of Michigan State, it doesn't negatively impact your chance of acceptance. Recently, I heard an admissions director from a university pretty far from here across the country. They were talking about their admissions process and how they were not test optional. They did not want the SAT score whatsoever, right? But they would have students send in the SAT score anyway, thinking, you know, okay, this might help. They didn't ask for it, but it could still help. Not only was it not helping, but it was actually working against those students because the university was explicitly not asking for it, right? So when you're looking at the application process for whatever institution you're applying to, try to really keep in mind what they're asking for. They will ask for different things. Some schools will require you to have a test score. Some schools will leave the choice up to you, and some schools might not want it at all, right? And that will change across a variety of things. Same with recommendation letters. It's optional with MSU, so that means you can send it, great, but if you don't send it, it's not going to work against you whatsoever. But just as a rule of thumb across the board, really try to keep a close eye on what the university is asking for, what the institution is asking for, and really try to just key in on that, because if you start sending things that they never asked for in the first place, that's not to say it will always work against you, but it could, right? And so you just want to make sure you're really following the guidelines that they provide you.
I just want to add a little bit about, sort of in the same vein, but kind of the opposite direction. We only require 1 teacher recommendation. You can send in multiple if you want to, but I'm going to caution you against sending in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those because I have to read them. I do want to make sure that I'm paying as close attention to each and every single one of them as I possibly can. If you're sending in that many, the chances are I'm not going to be able to read every single word of each of them. So the same thing is true with on the same line of making sure you're not sending things beyond what we're asking for. Some schools will ask for a resume, we don't. Some schools will be able to take, an extra letter of continued interest. We can't. We have too many applications to read to be able to go through anything that we're not asking for. So just keep that in mind too. You don't want to sort of keep pushing the matter when we're not going to be able to look at any of it anyway. So don't kind of, save your teacher's time, save all of that. Just keep that in mind as well.
And potentially a good rule of thumb to know when it might be helpful is, as in the presentation, they indicated like some schools you might apply to might be reach schools, they might be safety schools. And so if you are applying to a reach school and letters of recommendation are optional, that could be a place where it makes sense to submit those, because that can help boost your application if you're feeling like, oh, my GPA might not be in that percentile, but I do have 2 incredible letters of recommendation. So also understanding where, in the context of the rest of your application, how that might fit into different schools. And that's where it might make sense for some schools to submit those and for some schools not to, too.
So,
Can I add one more thing before we go? Are you going on to the last question? Okay, I want to say one thing. I looked at your packet that you sent out. This packet is really awesome, but the best part of it is this little grid that your counselors have put together for you. Use this. This is so awesome. It's a 2-page grid. I was looking it over. It has basic information on it, but more than anything, it has like on the back page, like what scholarship am I going to get? And really, it gives you a great comparison tool, because you're going to apply to more than one school. We all know that. You will put the average, I think, is like 4. It might be higher now. It might be like, because it's amazing how many schools students are applying to. But use this. This really will help boil everything down for you. Okay, I just had to give you a compliment there.
thank you. So the next one is for all panel, and then we're going to move on to audience questions. So this is for the whole panel. It might be kind of hard to do, but in 3 words, describe why you believe your type of college is the best choice.
Okay, I thought I had it, but if anybody has one before me.
Community, opportunity, and free.
Free's a good one. Free's a good one. I would say relevant and current majors.
I'll also say opportunity. If I can hyphenate, I'll say world class. And then I don't want to copy everybody's words. I want to say community as well, but niche communities.
I'm going to say personalized, fun, and results driven. So I'm also going to hyphenate.
I'm stealing the word of the night. Accessible, diverse, opportunity. There you go.
Oh, we got one more time.
I'm also going to steal community. Real world experience. That's not one word, but it's going to be my one phrase. And then smaller campus feel.
All right, thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause to our panel? We just made them do a lot of work and answer a lot of questions, and on that note, we're going to have you answer a few more. So if you have a question for the panel, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll come to you with the microphone.
Thank you so much. So it's for everybody on the panel, but I guess we'll start with Michigan. You talked about how you had over 90,000 applications this past year. I guess I'm curious, for each of your schools, how many applications do you get, and what percentage or what number of those applications were approved and those people became students?
So yeah, 98,000 or so is last year's number. We do expect it to go up once the final numbers come in for this year. Overall, it's typically around 15 to 20% of students are accepted, but that goes up in state pretty considerably. So I wouldn't be able to pull the numbers off the top of my head for Clarkston High School specifically. But the numbers that I was looking at today it's typically, it's higher than the overall number, because that includes everybody from every school in the world. So we do try to serve the students in state a little bit more strongly than that.
So Hope is significantly smaller than U of M. We're only looking for a freshman class of about 850 students. And so this is our largest applicant size we've ever had, and that's only right around 5,000. So, and we admit, depending on the year, usually between 75 and 80% of our applicants.
Ballpark numbers, I can't remember the exact ones, but last year we had around 64,000 total applications at Michigan State. Around 25,000 of those were right here in the state of Michigan. We usually, well, not usually, but last year we admitted around 80% of our applicants. I think it's around like 20% of those joined us. So we had about right around 10,000 students join us, take us up on that offer of admission for their first year on campus last year.
This is also going to be a ballpark number because I do not know the exact figure, but in the 20,000s for how many applicants we receive, and then we admit probably around 70%, and then for our class of 2024, I don't know the exact number of how many students we had enroll, but I want to say it was in the like 3,000s at Oakland.
We admit everybody. However, I will say we had some late applications. This is a great example. We had some late applications come in. We were closed until January 2nd. Between January 2nd and January 3rd, they processed 1,080 applications. By Monday, January 6th, 608 were registered students. So that's for the winter semester that is currently, this is the first week.
We have a class, our class size is usually about 500 for coming in, our freshman class, and it's about a 65-70% admissions rate.
Just to add a couple more numbers there, our incoming class is typically a little over 7,000 students. When you include transfers, it comes up to around 8,000, and over half of those are going to be in-state students. So with the population of Michigan, we have a really good number of in-state students coming to us.
One last fun fact I'll add real quick. I think in any given year right now there's around 100 to 110,000 graduating seniors in the state of Michigan. So when you're looking at all these numbers, you know that's the pool, you know, that we have for all of the in-state students when they're applying every year.
So on the opposite end of the admission percentages, what is the percentage of the graduation rates for those students that are admitted?
So a couple of numbers. 97% of students will stay after their first year at the University of Michigan, which I think is a really good testament to how well we're sort of providing those resources for them, making them feel like they can succeed. For whatever reason, the United States measures in 6-year graduation rates. It's around 94% for 6 years, and it's around 87% within 4 years. So normally, if you're not graduating within 4 years, you're probably doing a double major or dual degree, or you're changing your major pretty late. Most of the time, we do provide really strong resources to help students graduate on time.
Sorry. Michigan State, I think last year we had a graduation rate right around 85%. I think it's along the same metrics of the 6-year time frame. The first-year student retention rate hovers right around 92% most years. And then I know from the slides that we do with our presentations, we also have a placement rate of 94% for our students within 6 months of graduating, meaning within 6 months of graduating, they're working or in graduate school. 94% of our graduates are.
At Hope College, 98% of students stay from freshman to sophomore year, and our 4-year graduation rate is 94%.
Do you guys want to?
I don't have my number.
I don't want to make something up. I don't know the number. I'm going to be honest.
I can find out and get it to the company.
Yeah, same.
and this may be for you. During the game, points were given for legacy, but I was under the impression the legacy doesn't play a factor anymore.
So it's not going to be a deciding factor. It's not. What it typically does for students is that it provides more interest, which we can see through your essays. We can see through. We don't track demonstrated interest either. Just so you're aware, if you've gone for a tour, come to Ann Arbor and done that, we're not going to pull that into your application. So do make sure you're putting that in your application yourself. Put that in your essay. Most of the time, if you have some kind of connection to campus, your brother is there, your parents went there, you probably have been there more often than other students may have. You also you might be interested a little bit more just in general. You've watched the games your whole life, things like that. So that's where it affects it. We're not going to say, oh, this student's a legacy, let's admit them, because we have one of the biggest alumni networks in the world with almost 700,000 people in it. We can't admit everybody whose grandma went to Michigan. So, as much as we wish we could, so something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm piggybacking off of that. Same thing with Oakland. You don't have higher consideration or getting into Oakland based off of being a legacy. But what I will say is we do offer a couple of scholarships. And keep talking about scholarships. Free money is great. But if you are a legacy, and that is direct, so like grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, brother, sister, or aunt or uncle who graduated from Oakland University, whether that's undergrad or grad, you can receive a one-time scholarship.
It's similar with Michigan State. There's a question on the application that will explicitly say, for scholarship purposes, have you had a parent or grandparent graduate from Michigan State University? And so that can play a factor in that process. But for the sake of admission to the university, it's not a factor whatsoever.
Same.
We are going to have one last general question, and then we're going to give our presenters some time to head out to their tables.
Hi, I'd like to hyphenate my question if I can. When it comes to transfer credits, that you're taking it, you did the work, you know what transfers, is it 100% transferable, or is it like 75% of the credit? And then the second one is when a student gets on campus, are there certain programs in place to help with that transition academically, socially, whatever?
I can answer, at least as far as like with transferring specific classes, transfer equivalency tools, often, that different universities will have. Michigan State has one. They can be really useful for seeing exactly how your classes will transfer. So say if you're taking, college algebra at community college, how many credits is it worth? Like what's its course code, that sort of thing. With Michigan State's tool, it will show how many credits it's worth at Michigan State. And then it will list all of that explicitly, like once you've had your transfer credit evaluation done. And then in terms of resources for students, I wouldn't say that they're transfer specific, but we have things like math learning centers, writing learning centers. There's a lot of clubs. There's a lot of ways to get engaged for students. First year transfer, wherever you're coming from. For when you get to Michigan State, we have a lot of things in the opening weeks of each semester to really encourage students to go get involved in those, learn about those resources and that sort of thing, so that wherever you're coming from in the college going process, that you're not just left to your own to kind of figure that all out for yourself.
One thing that we notice at Hope sometimes when it's not 100% credit transfer is in our natural applied sciences for some of those lab credits. So sometimes depending on where those classes are coming from, our professors are looking pretty in depth at to like what those labs looked like to make sense if that would transfer to Hope of like, oh, if you're taking Gen Bio that has a lab, you might be able to take the discussion credit, but maybe not the lab credit. And at Hope we have transfer orientations both in fall and spring, specific for students who are coming to Hope, not as their first institution.
We do also have transfer orientations. We have a transfer admissions or information session too for those students who are kind of thinking about the process. I would say in terms of transfer, it can also depend just a lot on the academic unit. So like literature, science, and the arts, for example, they take almost everything. Engineering, sometimes it's a little bit different. They might want to see, if you're going beyond like Calc 2, for example, they might want to see that you're taking a pretty good base of the University of Michigan's classes so that they know you have the content ready to go. And that can kind of depend on the different academic units. There are 14 of those for undergrad, so just kind of being aware what that looks like. If you're transferring to nursing, how many credits do they take as opposed to dentistry, for example. It's all going to kind of depend. So those transfer equivalency tools I'm going to point those out again. If we've taken a credit from an institution before, it'll be in that system. And for the most part, we've taken just about any credit that you can take at a Michigan Community College or otherwise. So you're going to get a pretty good sense of what's going to be able to transfer.
Yes, at Lawrence Tech, we do have a similar database right on our system, and it's called Transfer Evaluation System, and you can actually dial down all the way to your major. So you're coming from OCC, and you're wanting to study architecture. So it will give you a list of every class that you should take at OCC that will transfer to the architecture program at Lawrence Tech. The thing that is kind of tricky, you had mentioned that we talked about the MTA, the Michigan Transfer Agreement. There's a lot of flexibility in what types of classes you can take. You have to take two natural sciences. Well, if you're a nursing major, you should take biology. And if you are an engineering major, you want to take something different. You want to take chemistry. So those transfer tools are really, really important. And then I cannot stress enough getting in touch with a counselor at the college you want to transfer to, because they can validate that for you.
I just want to add on to that about the MTA, that's also another reason to be in touch with your OCC counselor. I recommend once a semester, twice if you're really serious about transferring, beginning your semester and the end of your semester, to make sure that you're still on track with those credits for the MTA, and that if you are going into nursing versus another science, maybe that you're taking the correct science courses that will transfer to your future university. And as far as transferring resources, OCC hosts some transfer information sessions that are virtual. I actually am the host for those, so if anybody else wants to talk about transferring and what that looks like from OCC, we have a partnership with our top 10 transfer universities that we have them come on and join us on a Zoom, and then it's similar to this where they do a presentation about what a transfer intake looks like for them, and then questions on how to take that from OCC to that school.
So as far as seeing how your credit transfers, I don't have a whole lot to add. It's very similar to my counterparts up here with using the tools on our website to see how your credit transfers. A question that we get a lot at Oakland is there a max the number of credits that we accept? We don't. We accept an unlimited amount of credits. As long as the credit is transferable to Oakland, we will accept it. In the past, I think it was capped at 90 credits, but we don't have that anymore. So you can transfer in as many credits as are transferable. And then as far as the resources, as a prospective student, we host transfer student open houses throughout the year. We do virtual transfer information sessions. So there are a lot of opportunities to meet with one of our advisors. Every single one of our admissions advisors, we also serve as transfer advisors for our territories. So we're all versed in being able to assist transfers. And then when you get on campus, every transfer student is required to meet with their advisor during their transfer student orientation. And then we have kickoffs. So it's an opportunity for transfers to meet each other, and then just a variety of different student organizations as well. Some are that are specific to transfers.
Thank you. As a former university advisor, I just want to add on, watch those transfer credits, because not everyone is as generous as OU. So if you do decide to transfer, please make sure you're checking into that very carefully, because some people do not offer that much. Okay, Devin in the sound booth, could you go to the next slide, please? All right, so we're going to let our panel leave the stage. One more round of applause. They've gotten a lot of applause, but one more round. And then I'd also like to thank our student employees once again, and Independence TV for helping us out tonight. If you could scan this QR code, it's also in your packet, and take our survey. Your answers help us to improve our presentation every year. We do this annually. Last year, we used a lot of information that we received from the survey to enhance this year's experience, so hopefully everyone can give us some great feedback. Again, if for some reason your phone's not picking that up, there's also a QR code in your packet. And I realized I didn't introduce us, so you're probably like, who's talking to us? So I'm Amanda Goodwin. I'm the school counselor for students GUZ through L, and
I'm Jamie Graves. I have students with the last names CR through GUI. So thank you all for coming tonight. This will be the time in the evening where you can go out to the tables, you can speak with representatives, ask them any questions you have. They have lots of materials out there for you, so please take the time and go visit them.
thanks for coming out.